Central to the core of the 99 is that it's based on the values that Islam shares with the rest of humanity. We never mention religion in the storylines. Even though they're from 99 different countries, we never talk about their religion or where they're from. What we talk about is the power they have and whether or not that power can solve the problem that society has today. And that's how they have to navigate their differences. So for example, in one of the stories, Jabbar, who uses his muscles, gets very upset because Widad, who uses love, solves the same problem. That's how they navigate their differences. Not because she's from the Philippines and he's from Saudi, but because she uses love and he wants to use his muscles. I wasn't happy with how people were seeing Islam, but at the same time I wasn't happy with how Islam or Muslims were seeing Islam themselves. Because the problem is that every time something terrible happens in the name of Islam, Islam becomes the average of what just happened and what was there before, and it keeps being dragged to a negative sphere. And I feel the only way to beat these forces is through arts and culture. It's only when art and education and stuff is inspired by the religion versus being the religion that real change can happen. And so for me with the 99, what I wanted to do was to go back to the same place that the bad guys pulled out their negative messages, the bombs and the guns and the World Trade Center, and link positive messages. And in so doing, my theory is that I can just de-link them from the religion. The TV series has been created. It's written in Hollywood by the writers behind Ben 10 and Batman, and we sold it to Cartoon Network in Asia, Discovery Network in the US, NBC here, Turkey, etc. We just sold it in South Africa, ABC in Australia. So it's going to go on it's going to go on global television starting in January. And then hundreds of millions of people are going to see this. I have to believe that this is going to make some kind of impact. One of my theories about why the Arab world went to sleep when Europe woke up is because in Europe, Europe was pretty much under the hand of the Pope for 1,000 years. And the Pope's language was Latin. That was the language of religion. What that did over 1,000 years is that meant the church controlled the language and therefore controlled culture and education. But when King Henry really wanted that divorce and translated the Bible into English, and Martin Luther translated into German, all of a sudden those vulgar languages became ways in which the common man could contribute to culture. And there was an averaging out of that extremism. And so if you take that and bring it to the Arab world went to sleep when Europe woke up. Why? Because every prophet came with a miracle. Moses could turn a stick into a snake because magic was the language of the day. Well, the prophet's miracle was the language of the Quran. If the miracle of Islam is the language of the Quran and language evolves, what do you do? When you're speaking about English or French or Italian, the language you speak in is the language you write in. When it's in Arabic, the language you're thinking in is not the language you're writing in. It's like Latin in Europe. And so you spend your time trying to write the right sentence and less time thinking and creating and being innovative. And I feel like one of the solutions that I wanted to offer was let the creative writing classes be in the colloquial language. Let it be about creative expression and thinking, not about what word should follow what word because of some law from 500 years ago. I think that's really breaking us. And I believe that's one of the reasons why we went to sleep. With the 99, I've created almost 1,000 jobs over the last 8 years. With the Sur Center in Kuwait, I've created 50 jobs. Right? If 1,000 people create 1,000 jobs, that's 1 million jobs. Right? The Arab world needs 100 million jobs by 2020. And so the idea that we train, like I can't speak for the Arab world at large. I can tell you in Kuwait and in the Gulf, they pretty much coddle the population and don't, everything's provided for, and the thinking about kind of going out and being entrepreneurial doesn't exist. And for people who have it in their blood, it's very difficult. Like for me, it wasn't that easy to do to start off because the system wasn't set up for me. But I found ways around it because I was Western educated. But that's a luxury I had, not many kids would necessarily have. And so I think it's very important to kind of teach entrepreneurial skills. In the States, you get valued for who you are and your education is, and you get the equivalent of equity in your company, which is called sweat equity. It's for the sweat, They don't have that same system here. But you can find ways around it. I have. Otherwise, if I'm going to do this, take the risk, have my IP not protected, and end up being somebody's employee, why would I do that? I'd rather just go get a job instead of create one. But if you can find a way for me to actually build wealth for me and my kids, I'll go out and do that. When I went to my school in Kuwait, where my kids now go, it was 50%, my class was 50% Kuwaiti, 50% non-Kuwaiti. Now my kids' class is like 95% Kuwaiti. And I think that there's a problem in that. I think there's a problem in that because I believe that cultures die when they become homogenous, right? Heterogeneity is the only way to go. It's like a body of water. If you cut out all access to water to it, then it becomes a pond. And in pond there's life, but bacteria is king because things kind of die. And that's what happens intellectually too. So the countries that cut themselves off from everybody and will die. There's no. It may take longer now, especially if they can fund themselves, but they will die. And I think the only way around that is to have people from different religions, different cultures interacting and learning from each other.